Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're literally opening up a dark, mythic ledger. We're looking at a grim fable where absolutely every survival mechanic demands a devastating toll. It's a story of cosmic consequences where escaping one doom kinda just tethers you to another one. If you've been following the journey of Alara, Big Ben, and the Clockwork Owl, you know by now that escaping the Temporal Library wasn't just a matter of walking out the front door. Oh no, it was a catalyst for a permanent, irreversible change. So let's dive in to exactly what it cost our travelers to cross that final threshold.
Here's the dark prophecy we're unpacking today. We'll be following a classic Fichtean dialectic, moving through Section 1, Thesis, the library's closing judgment. Section 2, Antithesis, the mechanical owl's sacrifice. Section 3, Synthesis, forging the bidirectional tether. Section 4, the 12-day grace period. Section 5, the fragile human ledger. And finally, Section 6, approaching the changed Geneva.
Okay, Section 1, Thesis, the library's closing judgment.
We've got to start with the absolute finality of the sentient temporal library. Remember, this is an ancient archive originally built to preserve time, but it's evolved into this deeply hostile force that dictates reality. And this quote right here just brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of the threat. The library had shaped a concentrated lance of pure temporal energy and cast it after them like a closing judgment. You see, Alara and Big Ben aren't just leaving. In the library's eyes, they're disruptive readers. They literally forced a seam open to escape into the altered air of Geneva. This attack? It's the natural, cosmic consequence of that disruption.
Just think about the terrifying reality of an environment like this for a second. It doesn't use standard projectiles or fire. It uses pure time itself as an assassination weapon to maintain absolute control. The library wants to literally unmake them as the doorway seals shut. It's the ultimate expression of, well, bureaucratic erasure.
Moving on to Section 2, Antithesis, the mechanical owl's sacrifice.
So against this immovable force, we find our unflinching rebellion. Notice the stark contrast between these two cosmic forces here. On one side, you have the library intending absolute destruction, like a complete unmaking. But on the other, the owl doesn't just put up a block, it calculates. Its memory coils flare up, and it performs a highly controlled partial release. It absorbs that catastrophic energy and deliberately redirects it to protect its allies. It essentially turns an assassination attempt into a calculated mechanical sacrifice.
Let's actually break down this split-second miracle, because this whole thing happens in a fraction of a heartbeat. First, the owl spreads its articulated wings, and its etched metal feathers actually glow violet-white as its brass and quartz body absorbs the lance. Then, a secondary filament of this pure time energy infuses three little objects Alara happens to be carrying. And finally, using its own damaged coils as a makeshift loom, the owl weaves those objects into a mechanical bracelet right in midair. It is a breathtaking moment of creation born directly out of destruction.
But you know, mechanical defiance comes with a massive physical cost. The owl isn't invincible, it just absorbed a force meant to unmake reality itself. The sources specifically note faint scorch marks along its primary flight feathers. And look, this isn't just cosmetic damage we're talking about. It severely compromises their aerial reconnaissance and mobility for the treacherous ascent ahead. It brings its delicate recording systems right to the very brink of destruction. The actual loom of shared memory it maintains is potentially compromised, leaving the owl damaged and barely functional.
Which brings us to Section 3, Synthesis, forging the bidirectional tether.
The clash of the temporal lance and the owl's defense creates a permanent and honestly super burdensome connection. Look at the raw materials that were infused with temporal energy to forge this new instrument. We've got a brass tuning pin, a fragment of mapped gear, and a short length of residual dark fire-touched wire. The owl literally forces these disparate elements together into interlocking plates of tempered brass and quartz that pulse in perfect synchrony with the honest pulse.
Now, the absolutely crucial point here is that this isn't just some cool piece of jewelry. It's a twisted gift. It's a bidirectional link. Whatever the owl records, Alara physically feels as this faint magnetic electric pressure. And in return, whatever Alara maps through touch, the damaged owl archives. So Alara's own nervous system is now intimately, permanently tethered to the failing systems of a clockwork bird. She is forced to literally carry the sensory ghost of its mechanical pain.
All right, Section 4, the 12-day grace period.
We really need to look at the immediate effect the owl's redirected energy had on Big Ben. We can trace this expansion of time pretty clearly. At hour 0, he gets struck by the focus stream. Now, the original 5-day limit that was imposed by the Shadow's warning, it doesn't burn away, it stretches. With this deep, resonant click, his internal countdown completely recalibrates. The surplus duration floods his denser configuration, granting him a total of 12 days. That's 7 full additional days before the forced return to Sir Brain.
12 days. Let me ask you guys something. Think of a time you got a deadline extension at work or school. It felt like a massive wave of relief, right? Like you could finally breathe? But what if that extra time wasn't actually a gift? What if every single extra hour you were granted was slowly overwriting your core memories and your very identity?
That transitions us right into Section 5, the fragile human ledger.
Because this brings us to the true psychological terror hiding behind this 12-day gift. To really get this, we need to define cybernetic creep. It's essentially the compounding probability that every single hour Sir Brain remains wound up in this mechanical form, his human identity is permanently overwritten. And yeah, sure, the Serpro's temporal energy temporarily quieted the nanite tide, but make no mistake, this terminal diagnosis is still hanging right over him. The countdown to absolute permanence is still ticking, it's just on a slightly longer clock now.
And what happens if that countdown hits 0? He becomes a corrupted index. This is just a terrifying state where human consciousness is entirely consumed, leaving behind nothing but a hollow mechanical record. The sources describe his remaining humanity as a warm fracture within that denser Big Ben configuration. And let me tell you, that fracture is incredibly fragile.
And here is the really dark irony of their survival. This surplus energy absolutely buys them the crucial time they need to navigate the altered Geneva, but it also creates the exact window of time required for Sir Brain to lose his humanity entirely. It's like this hard-won time extension might actually be the very instrument of his ultimate erasure. It's brutal.
Finally, Section 6. Approaching the changed Geneva.
Our travelers are now looking forward to the 75-year advanced city that awaits them. So let's summarize the grim tableau of our heroes as they stand right now. 2 travelers and 1 badly damaged clockwork bird have somehow survived the library's final refusal. The honest pulse beats perfectly in time with Alera's new bracelet, absolutely confirming she is permanently tethered to the owl's damaged sensors, and Big Ben stands tall, his new 12-day tenure ticking down toward mechanical permanence. They are victorious, yes, for sure, but they are also intimately tethered to their own potential doom.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought today. As they begin their ascent into the iron rhythm of the changed Geneva, did the library actually fail to unmake them? Or, in its ancient, hostile wisdom, did it just grant them exactly enough time to unmake themselves? It's a heavy thought. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helped unpack the massive cost of survival in this incredible universe. Catch you next time.